sure, let's go. But my second thought is no, because a bunch of other organisms actually use that kelp rack also. So like lizards and flies and all sorts of other beach critters use that kelp that washes up. Shorebirds. Yeah.
Very important for shorebirds.
Yeah. Where else are dogs gonna pee? That's all I'm asking. Yeah. So yes, you kind of want to put it back in the water, but the kelp, things that happen in their natural state, there's a reason kelp washes up and stays up there also. And other organisms have learned to adapt and utilize that resource. So my suggestion to you is anytime you go to the beach, leave it as you saw it.
Or pick up plastic.
Or pick up plastic. Leave it better than you got there. Yes, Leslie.
I've got a question about Monterey because I had a heated discussion about this with somebody in the Monterey Fish and Wildlife office in Monterey, and her attitude was, well, the urchin barrens are there, but they're reverting, and but I tried to argue with her, and maybe you can provide some insight. What's happening in Monterey is on a much smaller scale. What's happening here is all along Mendocino and Sonoma for hundreds of miles. What's happening in Monterey is only over, 10 miles. So
Yes.
you still have spore banks, you still have sources so anyway, I'm just curious if you have some thoughts about what's going on in Monterey and how that might relate or not relate to what's going on off our coast.
Great question. Personally, I believe each local area, just like Sheila was talking about the Bay Foundation in Southern California, they treat that kelp forest differently because, again, they have different players than Monterey. Monterey also has different players than we have up here for a number of reasons, oceanographically, biologically. But your question about regional, yes, I agree with you. I agree that Monterey is in fact a pretty small chunk of the California coastline. Although I worked in that area pretty intensely for a few years, and that area also did experience everything that we're experiencing, but the rate of recovery quite different. They've been experiencing a lot more recovery happening in terms of their kelp coming back, some of their other players coming back, the urchins not eating as much as they've eaten here. And so those dynamics are quite different. There's something else, it'll come to me, but yeah, I think those regional, that's what it was. Those regional differences play a heavy toll, but what you said about how big the issue is, how many of you know about the Aleutian Islands and the urchin barrens up there? Yeah, if you haven't already, this book, Serendipity by James Estes, phenomenal book. It pretty much talks about kind of what we're experiencing up here, but through the lens of someone who saw this happening at the time before it was described, really. And so he kind of coined this whole like trophic cascade idea where you have a top predator playing a very heavy influence in the way that the community organizes itself. And so when we're talking about regional differences, we need to start thinking about those places I showed you on the map that have also experienced kelp forest regime shifts. The Aleutian Islands, so this area right here, also has an annual species of kelp, also has experienced loss of a trophic predator, and also has experienced kelp forest formations, as well as urchin barren formations, and some places have shifted back and others have not. And so I had the opportunity to get to dive that area, and when I moved up here, something that really struck me was some of the similarities in our biological composition in these two places. So regionally, that entire chain has been affected. Whether that's the scale to which we're seeing here, not exactly, but still pretty significant. So yeah, I urge you to look into this book if you're interested in this sort of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I just have to say that I just came back from the Pacific Seabird Group annual meeting, and there were many presentations about warmer water in the Aleutians and how it's affecting seabirds. Not good.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
All right, how about
Yeah, should we switch gears?
Yeah, let's switch gears and this is a good transition. So easy to see, not
only is she brilliant, but she's super wonderful to work with, so you can see that now for yourself. Thanks.
Thank you.
So we were talking about top predators for a second, you know, and one of the things that came out in these work groups that we had last year was in Monterey, the otter have been able to slow this response, but they haven't stopped it because the otter are not stupid. If they're going down and they're finding empty urchin because the kelp forests are thinning at least, they're going to go get something else to eat, right? So we are the top predator in our environment right now. Without that sunflower sea star, we are the predator that we can go and manipulate the environment ourselves. So what we've been doing is this project to remove kelp, remove urchin, to restore kelp. And you can see that we've got a collection of really great partners that are all working on different aspects of this. And one of the ones that is developed in this last 6 months is this pilot program to test whether or not we can take those empty, worthless urchin that come out of the environment. Some of them will be too small, we'll still compost those, but the bigger ones, can we put them in an aquaculture facility, feed them for a little while, and then sell them? Because as Leslie pointed out, the red urchin fishery, which Fort Bragg was a major part of for years and years, is gone. I mean, there's really not, as ironic as it is, there's urchin barrens forming everywhere, and there isn't an urchin supply anywhere. So the market for uni is really strong. So this company in Norway has been perfecting this system where they take the urchin and they feed them a formulated food made from the offcuts of the kombu market in Japan. So one of the most highly prized urchin comes from Japan, and it feeds on this sugar kelp called kombu. And we like to eat it too, and so they figured out a way to take the offcuts from that process, turn it into a feed source, so they're not taking anything out of the environment. And then they feed these urchin for a period of 10 to 12 weeks, and then they can get a product that is commercially viable. So can we do that here? That's the question. Right? So they're doing it in a lot of these places that had dots that Tristan was showing. And Japan has been one of the ones where they first brought the product to market, and they've got an incredible price. So you're basically taking a junk product out of the environment and turning it into a high-end seafood product. And their operation and their mission is to restore kelp forests. So they will only take urchin out of the urchin barrens, and they want to push those profits back into the conservation effort. So we've begun a trial at Bodega Marine Lab with our partners at UC Davis. We've put 6 raceways in. We harvested our first commercial urchin with our divers about a month ago. We put them in the raceways, and I was down there this weekend to take a look at them. The partners from Japan and Norway came out. It's still too early. They were just here having meetings. And we said, well, let's open a few and see what they look like. In a 3-week period of time of feeding them, they were almost commercially viable already. So we were taking some that hadn't been fed, opening them up, and they were empty, just as Leslie said. But in as little as 2 to 3 weeks, we were getting a gonad index that was almost commercially viable. So if that's a good sign, you know, if they continue to fill out even more, I would say we would have one of the fastest growing uni that they've seen so far. So that's a promising part of all of this. So hopefully we can create a new fishery. I mean, if all the stars align and we find a facility where we can actually upscale this to a commercially viable aquaculture process, we could create a demand for this product. And ours, again, it was, we didn't treat them really well. We tried to see what we could get away with as far as transporting them down to Bodega, and they had pretty low mortality. I mean, these guys are kind of indestructible.
I've flown a cooler of them for like 5 hours and just sit in the cooler.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, who's tasted uni or who's had it would eat uni right out of the ocean? I never thought I would like it, right? But I've been going down with Susan and her crew and tasting them all throughout this last year, and those purple urchin are actually tastier than the commercial red urchin, I believe, and a lot of the divers believe as well. So it's one of those things where we have to train ourselves to eat something lower on the food chain, and this is taking that sustainable seafood to a new level, if you think about it. What does sustainable mean? You're doing less harm in the environment by eating that fish or whatever that seafood product is. This is restorative seafood. So not only are you not doing less harm, but you're actually improving the environment by eating this seafood. So we're going to try to brand this as restorative seafood in an effort to restore our kelp forest.
You realize, of course, if your program is successful, there'll be overfish and we'll have to save the purple sea urchin.
Forward to that day. If you do this species, that's a long way into the future. But I did ask that question when I was talking to our partners in Norway. I said, so what happens if there's something and the population crashes, and he says, Sheila, we would take our champagne glasses and we would go to the next dot on the map. Like, that's the point. That's what we want. We want that balance back. And so if you think about the sunflower sea star being the primary predator, we need to come back, and we're not seeing any of them right now. Best case scenario for a natural recovery from a predator's perspective is 6 to 7 years, right? So they get to the point where they can have any impact on this species. And even though they are starving, I mean, you have to take your hat off to the urchin. I'm becoming a big fan. They are able to eat other things. They are able to pull nutrients out of the water. They're able to subsist. They live as long as we do. They're an incredible species. They can stand these starvation conditions for decades, right? So they can persist in this environment where other species can't. And they can ungrow, believe it or not. I learned this from Laura, when I listened to one of Laura's talks the other day, that when they're in a condition where they're not getting enough nutrition, they can actually shrink their body. When the ocean's acidified too much, their mouth parts become harder and thicker, and they can start chewing on the rocks and eating other sources of food. It's incredible, this species, right? So I think that we have to learn to become friends with it. Yeah. We have to learn how to eat it. So you're going to be hearing me say, eat that urchin and say, urchin cook-off. Urchin cook-off. Oh, but on that note, so that's just leaving you with a hopeful note. There are some opportunities here. And I think this project, bringing together all of these different stakeholders that don't typically work together, and all passionate about reducing that purple urchin population in order to save our kelp forest is another sign of real hope. And getting you involved, either whether you dive with Tristan or you come out with us to the dockside sampling program. If you don't like to get in the water, you can meet those urchin boats when they come in and help us do some of that data collection. Or you can come here and talk to people about it. There's a lot of ways that we can utilize your skills. Tristan says she's not talking financial. I always talk financial, so supporting an organization like this is also very good to do. If you want to become a member of the Noya Center or even put $5 in the bucket tonight to support talks like this, we appreciate that too. So, with that, I think we'll end the evening. There's another talk Tuesday. I think I told you that already. I'm going to turn that on. You can see. So, the North Coast is an interesting place, right? So we were out in the water a lot last year, and there was probably 2 days I think we got decent footage because the water clarity was bad, or there was a bloom of something that was in the water. Oh, it was always mice and shrimp. It seemed like there was mysids everywhere. So we don't have great footage yet, but we're going to continue to do that. So what we want to show you is what she's seeing every time she's underwater. We want to put a camera on our diver so you can see what they're seeing when they're collecting the urchin. So we want to use this dome to let you see signs that it's happening. So stay tuned throughout the year, and you'll see more of this story unfold. And we'll get the technology of this working better, and it will be a better experience. You look like you want to say something.
I'm really sorry I missed the talk, but unfortunately we're responding to a wreck of MERS, common MERS.
I already told them about that.
150 that we've documented between Laguna Point and
Hey Sarah, come talk here. This is Sarah Gardner. She's our stranding coordinator, so typically responding to dead marine mammals, but this time she's talking birds.
Talking birds. I got a call about a live one that needed some help this morning. I'd seen MERS in close just beyond the wave break for the last couple of days, and I kept my eye on it and thought, you know, with this wind, they're gonna blow in. And we responded to quite a few live ones washing in the surf. And then we realized that they were dying right away. They were washing up all along the beaches, and so I contacted Coast Observation and Seabirds, the study that's from Alaska down to elk, basically. And they said, this is a wreck, get out there and start counting, collect 10 for Department of Fish and Wildlife. And so that's why I missed the talk tonight. So we're gonna be out in the next couple of days counting dead mures on our beaches.
Where was it? Where was the main
So-
concentration?
From Laguna Point in McCarraker north to Englewood Creek, and that was a no survey zone on 10 Mile Beach, but a private citizen counted 65 out there this morning. And then we were able to do the survey south from there down to Laguna Point, so in about a mile's distance, and then there were 12 more on Noyo. I think they'll keep coming in with the wind. And of course, I found my Guadalupe fur seal right in the middle of that, also deceased, so it's been a really, I have to say.
Give Sarah a hug, she's had a rough go.
I've had a really, it's been rough. I've had 35 deceased marine mammal responses in the last 6 weeks. So for me, it's been a really rough season.
Are they initiated too?
Yes. Well, no, actually, I take that back, because a big number of those were fresh coyote kill of the little harbor seal pups at McCarraker. So those, they were not skinny.
Documented?
No, the coyote sees my camera and does not show up. Too smart for me. So, yeah.
Have you seen any other organisms washing up right now, other than the seabirds?
Oddly not, and I did see 2 loons and 1 cormorant fresh today, but I didn't see any other seabirds
Okay.
or jellies or anything else.
Last
Yeah.
weekend, we were starting to see, it was so interesting, we started seeing like purple urchins kind of like rolling in the surf zone almost, and we're like, why would that happen? We thought it was like the low tide events or something, but weird.
Abalone, yes.
Yeah, but I.
So this is something that we're talking about doing, and another way that you can potentially participate is between Reef Check and Noyo Center. We want to start doing beach surveys that look at things like abalone and urchin, but also document marine mammals and pick up trash. So like, we're all out there doing these surveys on the beach, so let's coordinate. So we're getting that protocol together. I haven't forgotten about
I
that.
haven't either.
Okay, good.
One more thing. Let's do it.
I want to make a comment. I had found a little pup that was being decimated by the turkey vultures down that area by Ward Avenue. And when I went to the McCarraker kiosk, they said, oh, that's just nature. Maybe we need to let the staff know at the kiosks at Van Dam and McCarraker
For sure.
to report that. Because
Well, or just
Yeah.
report it directly to me, and then we
Yeah.
don't have to do
Right.
that, because that's fine, and that is.
Well, I didn't have my phone.
Yeah,
So they
I
called
did get
you.
your report, I
Yeah.
did get your report,
Right.
so
The
thank
day I
you.
didn't bring my phone.
So
No,
just
no,
for
no.
those of you who don't know, Sarah's our stranding coordinator. We respond to all the dead marine mammals in the Mendocino region as part of a partnership with the larger West Coast Marine Mammal Stranding Network and our partners at Cal Academy of Sciences. So she has cards. If you want to take one with you when you walk out there, you can give her a quick call.
So Sarah, this morning when we did the voice survey of Casper South, there's this one rock we call the Sea Lion Rock. And there were 8 at the peak of that rock.
Oh, forget.
There were 18 sea lions, and one of them had sat on what last week was a nest with an egg.
Oh, no.
8, I have never seen. I mean, I've seen
They
them
have to
climb
go
to the top.
high.
With the big waves.
Yeah, they're going high. Those waves were hard on everything, including black oyster catchers and cormorants and everything else. It's been really rough, so.
Do you have any idea why the
I found one with that hat, you know, the scavengers are coming and opening them up, and there was an egg inside, so, I mean, and they felt thin, but this one had an egg that was strange. I don't know, I mean, I held them in my hands, we had 6 of them, and they died in our hands. We were trying to get them to Humboldt for rescue, and
I strongly encourage you to keep your eye out for talks with Coast, because one of the best, for what integrate Coast is, so Coast is the acronym for the
Oh,
Seabird
okay.
Survey Team and
Dead
Dead
bird.
Bird Survey, and they do some of the best work as far as integrating that oceanographic data with the biological data that the citizen science are collecting, and making those connections. And so this happened before, and if you ever see Julia Parrish's name, go to her talk, because she's amazing. And she really integrated this whole, like what these citizen science are seeing on the beach and how that related to what was happening oceanographically in the water, and how the food source for these birds was gone for an extended period of time, resulting in this high mortality rate on the beach. And it was amazing to see it all brought together, because that's a fairly rare thing to see, and that's what we're trying to work on with the Kelp Project as well. So
absolutely.
she's great, and if you want to be part of that survey, that's a really great program.
COASST, and there are many people here that are involved in it, and right away, as soon as she saw my photos, they got on it and they said, okay, this is something big, let's get our teams out there. Anybody who's a coaster is going to get an email to follow this protocol. We're looking at, is it a toxic algal bloom? Is it a starvation issue? Is it, you know, all these different things. So they're already in Washington University, at the Washington University, they're already responding to what's happening down here thanks to our citizen scientists. And I love seeing it come together. I love the information that we're gathering, you know, and for Reef Check, under the water, not looking at the megafauna is even more difficult, but then, you know, I'm seeing bigger stuff all the way up, you know, I'm hoping this wind doesn't blow it away, but probably not.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.